the January 14th meeting of the Towing Review Board. Just to let everyone know, Rebecca Trudeau is not able to attend today, so I'm filling in for her. I'm John York with the City of Akron Law Department. I'm serving as the chair, as the mayor's representative on the board. So we do have 6 present. I believe everyone's present except for the 2 citizen members. So we're going to go ahead and get the meeting started. Looks like the first item of business is the approval of the minutes. Was there any corrections or any problem that anyone saw with the minutes?
To approve.
Second.
Could we get a motion to approve?
Yeah, John, I moved to approve. Sandra Kirk.
I didn't pick that up.
I seconded.
I heard Mr. Last second. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved. So the next item of business is the old business regarding the towing districts. I understand, and I have seen the map that was circulated. It looks like that's the latest draft of the map. I believe it was probably prepared by the police department. Captain Makosi, would you like to speak on that?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind. I don't know if there's looking for a way to share my screen if I could, just to make sure we're all in the same. See really a way to do it. I assume everybody's had a chance to look at the map. What we did do was we had Save Akron GIS go through the map, and they put this map together. I know I sent it out to everybody to take a look. It went out with the information on the meeting. Did everybody get a chance to see that or not?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So the map that came out of it was so the map that came out of it did meet our original goals, and that was to the extent we're able to do so, make this even. And I know that everybody's had the chance then to look at it. You can see at the bottom pie chart, what that is, that's 3 years worth of tow data that we looked at there. And they plotted all those tows on the map to come up with a reasonable distribution. And our goal was, to the extent possible, it was not going to be perfectly equal, but equitable, and then draw the lines accordingly within that construct of having the tow yard within the district, and there be a reasonable response time. And what we have here, I think, is that. I think I don't know to what extent everybody's had the chance to do so. You really have to zoom in on that map to see how the highways were split up. But the highway parcels were also split up in the map to make sure that every part of the city was included in the map. I think we're comfortable with what we have here, but I'd like to open that up for discussion and comment from the tow companies to hear what they have to say about the map.
Well, I'm Brian from Kenny's Towing, and I have a few questions about the map. Just the optics itself looks like a couple companies kind of didn't get the area as the other ones. And my question is, as far as data, for the last 3 years on the major intersections, as far as the central interchange and Route 8, 77 and 76 have all been construction. So if they're running data from the last 3 years that they had construction, then moving forward, it's not going to be the same data. So a lot of those calls will not be there. Those incidences won't be there because the traffic will be flowing like it should be. So my question is, I guess, did they factor that into these areas or not?
So I'll answer that directly. They did not, and that was a purposeful choice because there was no way to reconstruct what we expect in the future in terms of how that will flow when the construction finally is cleared. There's no way to do that. The population has changed. People's driving habits have changed as a result of the extended period of construction. And so it's really impossible to model what it might look like a year from now. One of the things that we talked about as part of the project from the start was that, and we did review this with people at GIS, is that we start with this map. And I know that I spoke with Rebecca Advent about it as well. I think it's reasonable and necessary to review the tow data a year from now, after this map has been in place for a year, to determine whether or not it's still meeting our needs. I think that it's entirely possible that this map could end up with some lopsidedness. I don't know where, and I don't know how. To your point, as some of the construction clears, that might create some lopsidedness. Likewise, population shifts or major construction projects could change things as well. There's no way to account for that because we don't know yet. But what we can do is reevaluate it in a year and determine whether some of these lines need moved. I don't know if that answers your question or not.
I mean, it answers some of it. It just, I mean, just looking at area in general, at the two maps, it kind of looks like Johnny's and Kenny's definitely have about half of the area of some of these other ones, if not even half. Just curious how and they're saying that they came up with incidences.
That is true. As a part of it, when they looked at those maps, though, that's where there's a very large concentration of tows in those areas. And so you have less geographic area, but the same number of tows. For instance, and when you look at the lay of the land, even Stands and Bowers are very big geographically, but there's a lot of spread to that as far as where the tow calls are. Same with Miller's. Miller's extends all the way across the southern end. But keep in mind, there's big swaths in that area that lie within the city of Akron that there's not going to be any tows. There's, you got the airport, you got the parks, and so, Miller's is kind of spread out. So, yes, geographically, they're not the same size, but as far as the number of calls, those numbers they're correct.
Okay.
This is Jay Turgo with Johnny Sung. I have a question as well.
Go ahead.
On the central interchange ramps, on one ramp particularly, the ramp going 76 westbound to Route 8 south, you guys have 3 companies assigned to the same ramp in 3 different areas of the ramp. And just from my experience in the past of working in the city, in different cities and so on, all that's going to do is cause an argument when somebody thinks, or he or she believes that district, that accident or that tow should be theirs.
I can understand that. These are broken up by map segments, and that's the way they ran it. They also ran it based on the way the roads go. So a part of the calculation, or a part of the map work, was to run similar to the way they did with the fire trucks when they were drawing the lines for the fire trucks. They ran the response time from your shop to these different places to make sure they were all reasonable and make sure that it made sense. So while I can understand where you're going with that, when you really drill down all the way down to see where the end lines are, that's where that you really have to dig deep though. But
Okay.
it's based on actually running the models to have a truck go from your shop to that spot.
I understand. And then
So,
as you previously mentioned, so we're gonna pilot this program for a year and see how it works for the city. If there's any
yeah,
plus minuses and revisit in 12 months, or what's everybody's thoughts on this?
and
Well,
by the way, Alex, you can kick in here anytime if you think I didn't have it right. Alex Bryan's with us. He's with City of Akron GIS and one of the leaders of the project to do the digging for us.
I don't want anybody to think that I'm trying to be disrespectful or questioning your authority, because ultimately you guys are our bosses. I just, this is how we all make a living in the towing business. So this is either going to greatly improve or decrease what we currently do for the city of Akron in reference to volume and things of that nature. I understand how you guys are trying to break it up. But I understand, like Brian's concern there is, again, this is how we survive. Our families get fed every day. So I wonder if this is a permanent thing for the next 60 months or 48 months, or we're going to pilot for 12 months and see if it's a benefit or a loss for everybody involved.
And I respect that, and I accept it that way. I don't. I'm not all knowing here. There's no way for us to know. To his point earlier, there's no way for us to know how things are going to go once the traffic starts moving. It's impossible for us to say. What we're trying to do is to do this as fairly as we possibly can, and then we take a look at it a year from now and say, well, how'd it go? This is what we had based on the last 3 years. Look at the same pie chart a year from now and ask the question, well, did these lines work out or do we need to move something? To me, and I'm going to speak for Alex here because I guess I have to, but I don't think it's unreasonable to look at it a year from now to see where we're at. If we're talking minor little tiny things, I'm not interested, right? But if there's a major inequity here that really kind of stands out, or it's causing a problem, or reducing the level of service we're getting out of this, then I think we need to make a change, and I think we can do that. Is that answering your question? I don't know.
Yeah, very, very clearly. I appreciate your time, sir. Thank you for answering it.
one other thing to keep in mind as well is that the map is ultimately going to be approved by council. And that would mean to be changed, it also needs to be changed by council. So even if this group thinks that changes should be made in the future, if council doesn't feel the same way, but I think for the time being, it seems to be as equitable as it can be, while also making sure that the police department's desire to have the quickest response times is recognized as well. So it seems to be, from what I'm hearing, it's as good as it's going to get right now. But as Captain McCosey explained, we can revisit it. The way that would happen is probably the towing representative member would be able to bring it to a meeting and say, the towing companies feel this should be revisited, and then we could put it on the agenda for future meeting and then dig into it. But I think the way things look now on that circle chart at the bottom of the map, things are really amazingly equitable. I'm surprised you're able to get it that close for all the different companies.
What is your thought process, and this is going to go into effect?
I don't know. I suppose at some point, if the group feels that this is an acceptable map, then it may be time to vote on whether there should be approval of the map and recommendation to council that it be adopted. And if that happens, then it would go into effect as soon as council moves on it, which could be a matter of weeks. They might want to get over there and study it themselves, and then they might have questions. So it could take, it could take weeks, it could take months. But at some point it will get to council. I guess the question now is, does the group feel it's ready to recommend for approval?
John, could I,
Yes, certainly.
so, and I see that Cody's hand and Alex's hand are raised too. So when we were putting this together, we also worked with the CAD administrator, which is Cody Post, and he's with us here today too. And what we talked about was asking council for a 30-day window from the time that this legislation is passed for us to put together the packages necessary to actually implement it. I don't think it'll take that long, and I can let Cody talk to that, speak to that, but we were going to ask for 30 days for us to be able to put these maps into the CAD and to go live with it. In addition to that, we were going to ask make sure that we have all the tow company contact information, because as we move through that process, Sergeant Sherrick at the information desk would notify everybody about where we're at in the project, and hey, we're 24 hours and we're going to go live with the new map, so everybody knows when it's going to happen as we get closer. Hey, as of this time, we're going to go to the new map. But maybe Cody can speak a little bit more about the technology side.
Yeah, Captain, thank you. First, Jay, just to point out that ramp that you had a question about that has 3 tow companies, the 76 West to Route 8 South in the Central Interchange. The underlying roadmap that you see in the illustration is actually the old rampage. If you look at the colors, you can see there's a green ramp and a yellow ramp that are the new ramps, but they're not actually drawn on the base streets. Those are actually going to be all one color. And we, although it's hard to see because there's a lot of stuff crossing over each other, we will not have a ramp split up between 3 companies. We don't want to put you guys in that position. We don't want to put our dispatchers in that position, because as soon as I do that, one of the dispatchers is going to holler at me like, who do I call? How do I know this isn't clear enough? Just like it's not clear enough for you, it won't be clear enough for us. So it's hard to see because those new ramps aren't there yet, but those are going to be one company. It's not going to be 3. To talk about the time frame, we are asking for 30 days for the simple fact that this is going to go on our computer-aided dispatch software, which is a very sensitive beast. And the way we do things is once we have a data set that's done by our internal Akron GIS people, we send it over to the county GIS team. They put a package together. They put it in our test environment. We run through a few days of testing to make sure everything works as it should. And in our test environment, we actually make fake calls. We'll assign fake tows. We'll do all this work to make sure that, where the call is on the map and it's recommending the right tow company and everything looks and functions like we want it to. Once we get through testing, now that's go or no go testing. If we find an error, we won't take it any further. We'll go back to the drawing board and start over in terms of making sure it functions in the software. Once we make it through testing, we usually push it to production in a few days after that, depending where we are in our week. We do not push updates in our 911 center on Friday, just because if we push an update on Friday, we're guaranteed to spend the whole weekend working on it because it's going to break something. So it's very pivotal. It has to make it through all these quality assurance steps. Once it makes it through quality assurance checking, we'll push it to production. And we're going to rely heavily on Sergeant Sherrick and the communication from the city. I mean, you may get 24-hour notice that it's going to go into effect, that we're going to load it on. I would expect, if everything goes well, when we do this process, we usually load GIS data on Wednesdays or Thursdays. So you're probably going to get an email either a Tuesday or Wednesday saying, hey, the new tow maps are going to be in effect tomorrow at 1 p.m. That's generally how it gets cut off. That's generally how it gets loaded. Once we load it into production, it takes 6 to 8 hours to get into the dispatch center's production environment. So you'll get a notice the day before, and then it usually will take effect in the afternoon the next day. Unfortunately, I can't tell you it's only going to take 10 minutes to load because once the process runs, sometimes it takes 6 hours, sometimes it takes 8 hours. I have no way to know that until I get a notification that it's finished. So that's generally how it will work. We want 30 days because we've been on this software for 5 years. So we know it's very finicky, and we've had projects that were bulletproof, ready to go, and they just fell over themselves over and over and over again. And it took us multiple weeks to get the system to function correctly. So that's why we asked for 30 days. So that way, if there was a hiccup, we didn't have to come back to you and keep pushing it. This way we have the full 30, and then if we can get it done sooner, we will definitely get it done sooner. But just in case the system breaks, which is, if you ask some of our police officers, happens quite a bit. We have enough time, and you guys and then you guys kind of know when it's going to happen as much as we can pin it down.
Okay. Thank you for the clarity.
You're welcome.
Alex, I see your hands up. You can go.
Yes, sir. Just wanted to kind of piggyback a little bit on what Captain McCosey was saying, just to give you a quick background. So again, my name is Alex Bryan. I'm the GIS coordinator for the city of Akron. So basically how we created these polygons initially was we took every intersection point in the city of Akron, and we took all of the mile markers along our limited access highways. We performed a drive time analysis at that point to define what those initial polygons are. Essentially what that tells us is that for any of these given towing companies from their home address location, they would be the quickest to get to those locations. We took that 3 years of data, simply plotted that data on the map, and that's how we got our initial numbers. And that from there is where we started moving these boundaries to make the accommodation, to make it as equal as possible. I appreciate, pointing out about the base map. That's something we didn't catch. So that's already being worked on and fixed as we speak. Those ramp changes, we just haven't updated those pavement lines and that base mapping. So again, to echo what Cody was saying, that's why you're seeing that. But that will be fixed definitely in the final production mapping of this. As far as some of those numbers, the sentiments of asking where a lot of this data, if we're able to predict it, it is very complicated. I can say that from plotting the data myself, there were some areas that jumped out that seemed like they were potentially impacted because of construction, but I can't say with any certainty without seeing data of a non-construction zone that how much it impacts it. So that's why, as Captain McCosey says, we just have to go off of this. And then we have that ability to overlay the previous year of data and see if we need to start making any tweaks to the map, if that's what council asks us to do.
I got a question. So when the maps came to council last time and were adopted by council, there was a citywide map, so we could see the whole city. But there was also maps attached to the legislation of each district, so you could like zoom in on the districts a little better. Would we be able to do that for these districts as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We're putting the cart a little bit before the horse now because we haven't even gotten to the legislation stage yet. But I feel that it would help clarify things a lot more if you can look at it by district as far as just more detail. And even in real life, we're all probably going to be looking at a digital picture that zoom in digitally. It's a little more difficult on paper.
I don't see any reason why we couldn't put that together.
Yeah, and
We were kind of working on the citywide maps as a general baseline, but we can certainly put together some more detailed maps.
any other comments?
I could jump in real quick. I had a conversation with Jimmy over at Stan's about the section on the southbound of the Kenmore Lake, about him and I flip-flopping. I was wondering if that's possible. Because they got me running out towards like Hawkins diagonal. And I'll just give that to him. I'll just take that southbound part of that leg where it's his.
I'm gonna leave that to Alex. You wanna respond to that?
Yeah, absolutely. At the direction of the tow review board, members of this board, we can make any changes to that map that collectively, the group wants to see. That's no problem. For the folks and the companies that are involved in this, if you see those type of scenarios that it's mutually benefit, yeah, we can make those changes. We would what my ask would be is obviously some type of formality from communication from the review board that's the direction we want to go, and just clearly define limits. If we go from say exit ramps, exit numbers, exit ramp names, intersections, anything like that, that would be the easiest for us.
Mr. Miller, I'm not sure I caught exactly where we're talking. Could you explain that to us again?
Yeah, so on the new map, it's actually located, it says 76. Stands is referenced by the pink color there on that south part of that leg.
Okay.
So I was gonna the actual ramp, the actual expressway itself, I would take that southbound side, and then everything west of that's mine, he would take that. I hope that kind of makes it a little more.
FYI, I have to jump off here at 2:00.
All right, sir.
Yeah, because right into that leg, there's actually a cut through. I can flip right around to access that other side.
And my question, I guess, considering the councilman has to jump off, my question is, do we want to come back another time with that change made, giving GIS and the police department and Mr. Miller the opportunity to talk about this a little more detail, or do we want to do something different?
Mr. Chair, I was going to ask either yourself or maybe Augie could just provide some clarity. Are we suggesting a temporary test for this, or do we want to move forward with this full implementation?
From my standpoint, I'd rather go with a full implementation. So, to really let's get to a finished product and then go to implementation. I think that we don't want to tamper with this too much. The amount of work that's involved with, they're just drawing lines, but then it's got to be packaged, it's got to be tested, and then it's got to go to some accounting. There are a lot of steps to getting this into the CAD. So I'm going to speak for Cody here maybe a little bit, but I think what we'd like to do is have a pretty finished product, go with a pretty finished product, and then, run it for a year and let's see what happens. I don't know that we want to make any drastic. I think that it's a lot of work to make a very small change in the mapping when you get to the CAD. So,
Mr. Chair, based on Augie's explanation, I move that for adoption of this proposal.
You move for adoption with no change that was discussed this afternoon.
Correct.
Is there a second? Okay, we don't have a second.
I'll second that.
What I think I'd like to recommend is that
Mr. Chair, there was a second.
Okay. Mr. Who seconded?
McKittrick.
Okay, Mr. McKittrick seconded. So all in favor of recommending adoption of this map today? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it's unanimous. So this map will be recommended to City Council. And then the City Council will how to act from that point forward. But for purposes of today, this map's approved.
And Mr. York,
Yes.
I did include the implementation plan, which is what I kind of explained here, and what Cody explained that process, and the notifications that came with that process. That is included. I know Rebecca has that document, that we can maybe share that as well, at some point so that everybody gets a chance to see that as well. I think we can just email that out to everybody so they know what it looks like. But it's simply the same process that I explained.
Yeah, there's going to be some time built into this process.
Yes,
It'll take some time to get it to council. It's going to take some time to prepare legislation. We'll make sure that, you know, the 30 days you're asking for is built into the legislation. Moving on to the next item, it looks like there's no new business. Is there any new business that needs to be added for our next meeting? No. Okay, any new complaints?
Sergeant Sheriff.
Yes, I do have, hello, I just introduced myself. I'm Sergeant Sherrick. I took over for Sergeant Lipa back in October of 24. I do have a current complaint that a tow truck arrived on scene without a broom to clean up debris. That is the most current complaint I do have.
Are we seeing much of that, or is this an oddball complaint that you're hearing?
That's the first one I've been directly emailed about. So since October of last year, that's the first one I've had emailed directly to me.
Okay, so you'll be looking into that?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
I think it would be fair to just remind everybody, remind the tow companies, just remember that the tow ordinance is where the fees and costs are listed, and we need to stick with that. And we do follow those up. And also just a reminder to make sure that they have the cleanup tools on their trucks so they can clean up the debris, because that's important too, especially this time of year with the accidents. We don't want to make matters worse. So just a reminder, that's all.
Great. So it looks like the last item is to announce the date and the time of the next meeting. I did not have a chance to figure that out before the meeting. Did anyone else figure out the next meeting? April. Looks like it's April. And we're going to be the second Tuesday.
That's typically when they're held.
Okay. So it looks like that'll be April 8th at 1:30. And with that, if there's no other business, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
Great. We're adjourned. Thank you.